Well, hello. My name is Patricia and this is the Poetry Pcast. Delighted you came along to join me. What am I up to this week? Apart from trying to lose those extra kilograms I put on holiday. Oh, they're so hard to shift. Well, February is the month of love, the month we celebrate St. Valentine's Day. Today, a little early or maybe late, depending on when you're joining me, we're going to hear love haiku, senryu, and a couple of tanka. Before we do, I have a little rabbit hole to go down. You know how I enjoy a good rabbit hole. And I was wondering, who was St. Valentine and why do we celebrate him as the saint of love? If indeed the day has any religious significance at all these days. A quick search on Mr. Google confirmed that St. Valentine is indeed a Catholic saint, although there's a bit of confusion as to which St. Valentine we mean. One thing is certain, he was a martyr, and he was probably martyred in the 3rd century AD, and was a man of religion. But are we celebrating the Italian or the African martyr, St. Valentine? That, I'm afraid, I can't tell you. What I can tell you is why he was martyred, and that will shed some light on why many of you celebrate the 14th of February, the day he was martyred, as a day of love. Around 265 AD, Emperor Claudius II decreed that soldiers in the Roman army should not be married. His thinking was that they'd be more dedicated to the fight and less likely to desert if there were no wives and children at home. St. Valentine defied the emperor and secretly married soldiers when they requested his services. And when he was discovered, well, that was the end of him. He was sentenced to death by being beaten with clubs and then having his head cut off. Legend has it that he left a note for his jailer's daughter, who he cured of blindness, which he signed off as "from your Valentine." And so the greetings card business was born. Forgive my cynicism. Now, the interesting thing, at least for me, is that you can find some of his supposed relics in a church in Dublin. If you're ever in Dublin and are interested, you'll find them in the Church of Our Lady of Mount Carmel in Whitefriar Street. I'll put a link in the show notes so you can follow it up, should you ever find yourself there. I think I'll go and have a look, because I'll be back in the Emerald Isle this year at some point. The church is not that far from St. Patrick's Cathedral, by the looks of it. I had a little trawl through my haiku library, and I thought I'd bring you some previously published work, and then we'll hear some work written specially by you, for you. Earlier this month, we had one of our spontaneous flashku. For those of you who are new here, the most important thing to tell you is that they're by invitation only, and only poets on the newsletter mailing list get the invitation. You can sign up on the Poetry P website if you haven't already. I invite poets to send me one haiku or senryu in a 24-hour period, and then the team read them all and allot points. The poems with the top points are accepted for the Poetry P Journal and, of course, the podcast. It's a very fast process, and so we call it Flashku. This time we had the largest number of entries ever, and many from poets who'd not submitted before, so thanks to everyone who took part, and the team for their time, especially as they're busy this month reading your sci-fi coup. And if you're here when the podcast is published, you still have a few days. Don't miss the deadline, 15th of February. First though, let's hear those previously published poems I promised you. And up first is a cheeky little one from James Young, which was our PTV moment on our YouTube channel in April 2020. Love, the iron is on. Be careful. Love, the iron is on. Be careful. James Young. Hurricane prep. The stray cat sneaks her babies into our garage. Hurricane prep. The stray cat sneaks her babies into our garage. Pris Campbell, Poetry P Journal, 3/24. And incidentally, one of our Touchstone nominations for last year. I don't know if cats experience love. I guess we can't know for certain, but most cat owners will tell you that they do, I'm sure. Next one from Isa. Goes out, comes back. The loves of a cat. Goes out, comes back. The loves of a cat. It was translated by Robert Hass. Your left hand exploring my fingers one by one. Maybe this is love. Your left hand exploring my fingers one by one. Maybe this is love. That's Tawara Machi from Salad Anniversary, translated by Juliet Winters Carpenter. And I promised you some tanka. My yearning for you has grown more and more as cotyledons grow to the height that covers the sun in the sky. My yearning for you has grown more and more as cotyledons grow to the height that covers the sun in the sky. Yamakawa Tomiko, translated by Tanaka Mitsuko. Wouldn't you just love someone to write that for you? Little girl, you told me you loved grilled meat and gratin dishes, but I love your daddy. Little girl, you told me you loved grilled meat and gratin dishes, but I love your daddy. Tawara Machi, translated by John Holt. We're like chocolate, melting as we hold each other in the small room of the sauna, skin on top of skin. We're like chocolate, melting as we hold each other in the small room of the sauna, skin on top of skin. Also Tawara Machi, translated by John Holt. And you can find the citations in the show notes. And I have one last thing for you. This time, an excerpt of a haibun about the death of Isa's daughter, naturally by Isa, and translated by Sam Hamill. Her mother clutched her cold body and wailed. I knew her heartbreak, but also knew that tears were useless, that water under the bridge never returns, that scattered flowers are gone forever. And yet nothing I could do would cut the bonds of human love. The world of dew is only the world of dew. And yet, oh, and yet. Her mother clutched her cold body and wailed. I knew her heartbreak, but also knew that tears were useless, that water under the bridge never returns, that scattered flowers are gone forever. And yet nothing I could do would cut the bonds of human love. The world of dew is only the world of dew, and yet, oh, and yet. S8E6, translated by Sam Hamill. Heartbreaking, no? So taking a deep breath, I have the poems the team chose from your FlashQ submissions on the theme of love. Winter evening, fragrance of bread in a hug. Winter evening, fragrance of bread in a hug. Daniela Miso. Twig upon twig, in the tree we planted, finches nest again. Twig upon twig, in the tree we planted, finches nest again. Lisa Biller. Spring thaw, on the park bench, a carved heart. Spring thaw, on the park bench, a carved heart. John Pappas. Engagement day, he ties a clover on my finger. Engagement day, he ties a clover on my finger. Cathabella Wilson. Tinder profile. A potato stalk climbs the compost trellis. Tinder profile. A potato stalk climbs the compost trellis. Jacob Blumner. Saying yes to another date. Green shoots. Saying yes to another date. Green shoots. Melissa Dennison. Purple orchids, but you didn't last that long. Purple orchids, but you didn't last that long. Vidi Ashar. First light, she kisses her stillborn goodbye. First light, she kisses her stillborn goodbye. Shrini. Verse without a name, she turns to look at the radio. Verse without a name, she turns to look at the radio. Zara Mugis. A lone goose, calling, calling. Snow in the wind. A lone goose, calling, calling. Snow in the wind. Kurt Paulish. Diphthongs, you and I meld, toot sweet. Diphthongs, you and I meld, toot sweet. Scott Wigerman. Valentine's Eve, picking up flowers at cut price. Valentine's Eve, picking up flowers at cut price. Robert Kingston. I don't know if this is what Robert meant, but I can just envisage someone going to a garage forecourt and picking up a bunch of best past their sell-by date flowers. I hope, Robert, that's not a trick you pull. Red azaleas, The secret admirer misspells my name. Red azaleas. The secret admirer misspells my name. And that's by Shloka Shankar. And Shloka is, of course, the editor of Sonic Boom. And in case you didn't know, it's back. I'll put a link to the latest edition in the show notes. And this last one is by a man who definitely understands the way of the world. Wedding anniversary. She is still right when she's wrong. Wedding anniversary. She is still right when she's wrong. Dejan Pavlinović. Now, there is an editor's choice and an honourable mention in this bunch of poems, and you can find out which one they are in the next journal. In the meantime, why don't you let me know which were your favourites? Because I'd love to know. Thanks again to all of you who came along to listen today and who submitted poetry for the Flash Coup. If you didn't get the invite this time, perhaps you're not signed up for the newsletter. All stuff's going into spam. Perhaps you should check that. Anyway, there's an easy way to remedy the situation, whichever one of the two it is. I hope you've enjoyed the poems I've read today, and you enjoy a great month of love. Do check out the submissions diary to see what you can submit to at the moment. There's nearly always a video prompt on the Poetry P YouTube channel, and you can leave as many poems as you like in the comments, but they have to be in the YouTube channel. And if you're listening when the podcast is published, February, obviously, 2025, myself and the team want your sci-fi coup if you haven't sent them already. Before I go, could I please ask you to consider sponsoring the podcast with a donation or a membership? Or perhaps you could purchase one of the many publications we put out, whether PDF of our bi-monthly journal or the print versions of our anthologies, split sequences and hybrid journals. By the way, the latest split sequence journal is going through the printing process. You will hear an announcement very soon that it's available both as a PDF and as a little book you can pick up and read. Hope you join me next week for more poetry, but until then, keep writing and of course submitting Sci-Fi Coup or whatever it is we're reading at the moment. And don't forget, there are some links to the previously published poems in the show notes. Ciao!